Hello, everybody. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk some metal. I'm going to do a kind of short video this time around. This is a contest entry for Matt over on YouTube channel, The Dark Path. Matt recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so big congratulations to Matt on reaching that milestone. If by chance you're not familiar with his channel, I definitely recommend that you check it out. Matt's a good guy and has a really cool collection, and I really enjoy his content. In particular, he does excellent deep dives on bands with very long discographies over the past few decades. His videos, for example, on Ulver and Samael are really, really good analyses of the bands and their albums through time. So definitely check out that content if you haven't. So Matt apparently decided that upon reaching the 1,000 subs mark, he was going to do a contest. And the theme for the contest was he asked people to either make a video or post in the comments on his video about a nice pair of albums, two albums that people sort of have connected in their head for whatever reason, that when they think of one of them or play one of them, the other one kind of goes along with it to that person. So seemed like a pretty neat idea. And I thought about it and couldn't come up with a bloody thing for a while to actually comment on, because it's not something that I typically do, apparently. That I don't necessarily associate a lot of albums by different groups with one another very strongly. But I finally stumbled upon a combination that made a lot of sense to me. And so that's what I'll talk about tonight. Now, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to cheat a little bit on this because I don't have hard copies of both of the albums I want to talk about. One of them I only have as a digital copy at this point in time. So, whatever. I think we can make do without it. The pair of albums that I want to talk about are first, The Cult's Sonic Temple, which came out in the spring of 1989. And the album I'm going to pair this with, holding imaginary CD in his hand over here, is Metallica's And Justice for All. There's a story here. There has to be, because this pair doesn't make a whole lot of sense without it. This pair of albums were the first heavy albums I ever bought. And I bought them on the exact same day, at the exact same time, from the exact same dealer. So, back up, a little preamble here to get to that point. So, growing up, mid and late 80s, I obviously heard a lot of the sort of MTV heavy metal stuff in the background. Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, all of that. I think Hysteria broke huge when I was in 7th grade, and, Appetite for Destruction came quickly on the heels of that soon after. So, those kind of bands were always kind of in the background, Whitesnake, Rat, etc. They weren't things I tended to buy a lot of at the time. I was kind of the right age to be getting into it, but just didn't right away. My sister actually got into a lot of that stuff a little bit before I did. But I would hear it, I'd see the videos on MTV. I knew a lot of the songs. It just wasn't stuff I was going out and buying for myself just yet. But in the summer of '89, I started then to kind of transition away from the stuff I was listening to, which was more like Bruce Springsteen, Huey Lewis, that kind of stuff, and started buying things just a little bit heavier. Now, my first purchase that would technically qualify as something heavy was the cassette single, that kind of dates it right there, of Great White's big hit, Once Bitten, Twice Shy. That became, of course, a huge hit for them that summer. And when the album was coming out, my sister and I both really wanted to buy it. We both really liked the album. We were smart enough to realize that it was really stupid for both of us to buy a copy, because whenever one of us bought an album, if the other person liked it, they would just make a copy of it on a blank tape. And there was a couple of minutes of sort of tension. There's like, well, I want to buy it. Well, I want to buy it too. And siblings starting to bare teeth and claws at each other. But I actively remember this was one of the sort of first times where I decided, you know what, this is kind of dumb. I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm just going to be the good big brother. And I was just like, okay, sis, tell you what, you go ahead and buy the album. Um, but I want to buy the cassette single because I want to hear the song a lot. And the cassette single has two songs that aren't going to be on the album. So I'm still getting some different songs. And it turned out it worked really well for both of us because we both hated the album. And so I didn't have to spend my money on it. But the two songs on the cassette single were actually pretty fun. Slow Ride just didn't make the album, but it was a song I liked. And they had kind of a novelty song called Wasted Rock Ranger on it, which was a hilarious listen. It was just this kind of dippy acoustic thing and with lots of swearing and dirty words in it, which, yeah, again, being a teenager at the time, what more could you ask for in a song? So I bought that cassette single earlier in the summer. I still hadn't bought, a full-length album yet. But we then fast forward a couple of months to Labor Day weekend, 1989. And I was at a big flea market. There's a big one that I went to every year that holiday weekend. You could find all kinds of crazy stuff, baseball cards, comic books, all kinds of antiques and whatnot. And yeah, usually I was going to collect, baseball cards and comics and stuff. But there was always, some vendors with records and things like that. And in looking through the cassettes of one vendor, it became obvious right away that he was selling you like bootleg cassettes, which, ooh, naughty, whatever. But they were also only like $5 a piece, which made them pretty cheap and affordable, especially for, teenage kids from a little, small town out in the country. And in flipping through the stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, some of these I've been hearing songs from here and there. And I ended up deciding that, yeah, I wanted to buy a couple of things. And I ended up picking a bootleg tape copy of the Cult's Sonic Temple and Metallica's And Justice for All. So why these two particular ones? They had been pretty popular albums, over the past year. Justice had been out about a year at that time. But all that summer when the family had gone on vacation, or anytime I went to record stores or stuff like that, there had been posters for Justice all over the place. It was an album a lot of my friends had already bought and listened to, so I'm sure I had seen the video for one by that point, and so it was kind of like, yeah, this is kind of neat, kind of interesting, and figured, well, this is a good one to kind of delve into a little bit, kind of start to wade into the a little heavier purchase. And similarly, I'd seen posters for Sonic Temple in those same record stores all the time. I really liked the cover image. It was just, I thought, a very striking visual. And I'm guessing I'd probably heard at least Firewoman by that point. Not 100% sure, but it's likely I'd seen or heard the video for that. Ian Ashbury, always really liked his voice. It's very strong vocal, kind of bluesy. And I dug that too. And so, yeah, I ended up, spending 10 of those hard-earned teenage dollars buying these two bootleg cassette tapes. And they were both kind of growers for me. Several songs on the Sonic Temple album stood out at first. I loved the opening track, Sun King, the way it built up. Played that one to death. But the album was really solid throughout. It was every time I played it, it's like another song would stick, another song would stick. Justice, on the other hand, was kind of a tougher listen. The copy, again, this was a bootleg cassette tape, and it wasn't a particularly good copy. It was, pretty muddy sounding, didn't have great sound quality. And of course, that's a tough album to kind of wade into Metallica with. Very long songs, very technical. There were some of them I liked. I liked Blackened a lot. That clicked right away. One, of course, was pretty good. I think Harvester of Sorrow was the other one that kind of got my attention right away. But a lot of the other songs had more difficulty getting into. But it did get me in the door. It, opened that sort of path. It's like, I do like it enough that a little bit later, a few months later, I would be picking up Ride the Lightning. Hilariously, I would be buying Ride the Lightning with a pair of odd albums as well at a record store. I bought cassette copies of Ride the Lightning and, wait for it, yes, Young MC, the Bust a Move, sort of, yeah, pop, hip hop, rap, pop single hit at the time. To this day, I don't think I've ever had a store clerk look at me any weirder than the lady who was standing behind the counter at, is probably a Record Exchange or Camelot Records, when I handed her, Ride the Lightning and Young MC. And she just looked at him just like, she didn't say anything, of course, but you could tell just the expression on her face was just like, what's the fuck wrong with you, boy? But anyway, that was a different pair of albums. So yeah, getting back to the other pair, that was my first big, real metal purchase. Those were the first two heavy metal albums I bought, and it pretty quickly snowballed from there. Sonic Temple, of course, obviously has kind of stuck with me over the years. Both those bootleg cassettes are long, long gone, but I did pick up CD copies of both. At some point, I must have sold or traded away the CD for And Justice for All. It's just not an album I go back to and listen to very much. It's got some good songs on it, but even now, it's just, if I want to listen to Metallica, I'm going to pick one of the first three albums. That's what it boils down to. If I want to hear Injustice, I'll play it digitally. But when I do play one of the two albums, the other one always, of course, immediately pops to mind. And it's not unusual for me to play Sonic Temple a few times and be like, oh, yeah, kind of remember Injustice. I should give Justice a few spins. So why not? Haven't played it in a while. And so that is kind of my nice pair of records, because it was also my first pair of heavy metal records. All right, I think that is enough about this. There will be a link to Matt's channel in the comment section down below so that you can go check out some of his excellent content and also see the contest video itself. I think there's still, hopefully, should be a couple of days left by the time I get this video posted. So if you want to post a comment or make your own video and notify Matt about it, by all means, I encourage you to do so. And if you're not too busy, let's also talk some more metal in the comments of this video down below. What was your first big heavy metal album purchase? What was the album that you went out, spent your own money on, that kind of cracked that door open and obviously kind of, sucked you into the whole heavy metal underground? Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Was it another Metallica album? I'm guessing for other folks it probably wasn't The Cult, but yeah, hey, they were heavy enough to help keep me, pushing me down that path. All right, that's it for now. Until next time, everybody take care and keep banging your head, sometimes to 2 albums at a time, even if one's imaginary.